All right, welcome back to TML Weekly. This is episode 21. Thank you as always to our sponsors, Bjorn and Don Cherry Sports Grill. First things first, before we get into the Bruins game last night, I know John wants to talk about that. Johnny Mac is a little where he wants to get in.
Hey, how was the week, guys? We been following Jack's team, so a couple things to shout out tonight. Jack, my youngest, is turning 10 tomorrow, double digits. So shout out to him and his team, the Halifax Hawks AA U11 group, are advanced to the provincial qualifying final for the Central Region. So pretty big game they have on Thursday. So let's hope they can take Cole Harbour Wings down and have another good effort, and then they move on to the provincial semi. So it's been fun. Lots of real good hockey out here, and we're getting some half decent weather. All that snow we got melted, and been watching lots of hockey live and on the TV. How about you, Johnny?
It's been a quiet week. Nothing too much going on. We'll get into this Leaf situation here. Listen, I'm going to say some uncomfortable truths here that I think a lot of people are either going to go, yeah, that guy's bang on, or I'm going to get the perpetual, everybody hates John in his Leaf commentary. To me, I kind of feel like we are in the midseason malaise that the Leafs do to us. We have a great run, and we get lulled into the belief that, you know what, maybe we are just a player away. Maybe we are just, if we can get that third centerman, or if we can get that other winger, or that one defenseman that's really going to put us over. And then we go out and we get a gut check game. And how many times have we seen this under the Sheldon Keefe regime, where you get the big gut check game and everybody's ready for it? We're all ready. Everybody except the Leafs. The fans are ready for it. The other team's ready for it. And then the puck drops and it's 12-2 in shots, and we look like we haven't showed up. And do you get some bad calls? Absolutely. Fine. Sure, if we want to blame the ref, I can get there. I can't get past, yet again, we don't show up on time. I do not understand how, as pro athletes, when this game is coming in your own barn and you're playing a team that's knocked you out of the playoffs multiple years with the same cast of characters. And I heard John Tavares. John, did you hear Tavares after the game?
Yeah.
Okay. So for anybody that didn't hear John Tavares after the game, go back and listen to John Tavares from 5 years ago when we got eliminated from the playoffs, or 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, or 2 years ago. And John Tavares says, it's a good lesson and we're going to learn from this. And, I don't know what to say to John Tavares anymore. I really don't. Outside of the fact that I think maybe he doesn't understand. Somebody's got to send him on a PR course, because that kind of garbage is just, it's no longer.
That's what he learns at his PR course.
Well, then somebody's got to get a new PR guy.
They don't want him speaking, truths, because
John,
sometimes it incriminates other members of the organization. That's what they're taught to say. They're media training in junior now, midget, ban them now. They got.
But Johnny, there's other ways to say things other than we're going to learn from this. Like you can't go to the well 809 times.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you are. You're still. You know what? We're in our 40s and 50s and 20s. We still learn, right? So he's not wrong, but I get how it can rub certain people that think certain ways the wrong way, right? And just to rebut your, I'm not worried at all, right? They didn't start on time. I thought there was a lot of real good things in that game. I thought a couple of bounces, and that was a new game. I liked the response. If they had rolled over and got pumped 5 goose, yeah, maybe. That game wasn't like that, right? They were in that game until very late into the third period. You know the firepower they have. We talked quickly off the air. I never fault Matthews ever. He obviously doesn't ever hurt you defensively, but he whether it was puck luck or whatever, he was a little bit off last night. But at the end of the day, when you got 53 and 58 or whatever he's got, he's entitled to do that. And again, that never hurts you in his own end. Always on the puck. I just, you know what, I don't know what more you want. They're 9-1. They go out and they
want us to show up against Boston.
Yeah, but
that's what I want us to show up against.
Doesn't matter right now.
Great that we beat Arizona. Fantastic. We beat Arizona. Woo.
Yeah, but those are points in the bank. They're the same 2 points that the Boston game's going to give you.
We're not but the Boston game is a 4-point game.
Well, is it?
Yeah, it is. Well, we're chasing them in the standings.
Right. But I don't think Toronto and Boston, I think Toronto's going to overtake Boston regardless. I didn't mind the hockey game. I think, a couple of bounces and it went the other way. You can't after they go 9-1. That's why it's nice. And I said it last week. If you go back and watch last week, I said, hey, you can go 0-4 in the next 4.
We bought time. That's John. You're missing the point though. I
know that you want them to show up against Boston, but that's
my issue here. Yeah, my issue is not the loss. I'm okay with the loss. I am 9-1 again. Great. I'm with it. I've been on the.
They did show up, John. They did show up. They bounced
for 40
back.
minutes, John.
Yeah, but the pressure that they had more offensive zone. You can list the things that they did really well in that game. The result of that game, whether they beat Boston tonight or last night, doesn't matter. They got to beat Boston in April, the end, mid to late April. A win last night isn't going to make them beat them in a series. A loss last night isn't going to make them lose in that series. But it's a feeling out process. They're two different teams, and they're going to be even more different because both of them will be active over the next 48 to 72 hours, right? So I'm okay with it. How do you bounce back Thursday night in Boston? That's when I'll if they go in there. Let me ask you
this question though.
Yeah.
When was the last time? Okay, we played Boston, and Boston wasn't ready to go. Can you recall the last time we played Boston and Boston was just didn't have it?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that they don't.
I can't even
start on
that.
time, but
that's the point I'm making.
I don't think.
But that's the point I'm making. We can all recall multiple times when the Leafs have played Boston and just haven't had it, and then we have. Listen, we all know I love the Savior, and he's been great, and I'm not going down on the Savior at all. But last night, the Savior wasn't around. The Savior wasn't around last night. Marner was invisible again against Boston. Nylander was out for a skate most of the night. Our third and fourth line got punished against Boston on those first 2 goals. So I'm trying, the point I'm trying to make here is it's fine, but we're going to be in the playoffs and we're going to play Boston or we're going to play Florida. And regardless of all of the fun things that we can say about this team, and there's a lot of fun things that we can say, last night is a gut check game. It's a measuring stick game. Johnny, you put that stuff up on the board in the room. Guys, we got them next week. Let's be ready. Everybody's got to be on page. Let's go. Those are milestone marker games. And again, I just look and I go, there's nothing that I saw last night that gives me the confidence to think that we're going in the right direction if we got to play them in the playoffs.
Yeah, so I'm not worried at all. We'll see. We'll talk next week and see how they've got 2 rivalry games in Buffalo and Montreal.
And Boston.
And then they got Boston.
Yeah, right? We got 3 rivalry games.
Buffalo and Montreal. I say rivalry because neither team is real effective in the standings, but they'll show up.
The playoffs
They'll
are
be good hockey games against Toronto every single time. Doesn't matter where they are. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Trade deadline coming this week. Lots can happen over the next bit. Yeah. So, anyway.
all right. That's my take.
What do we got up?
Right on. So moving on to the trade deadline, I'm just gonna do
Yeah.
a quick rapid fire with you guys.
Sure.
So we got 5 names. So I'll start with you, John, first, and then Johnny Mack, you'll go after.
Hit me.
All right. Where do you guys see these guys going? Pens forward, Jake Gensel.
Las Vegas.
Vancouver.
Flames defenseman, Noah Hannafin.
Boston.
Tampa Bay.
Ducks forward, Adam Henrique.
Colorado.
Boston.
Sens forward, Vladimir Tarasenko.
Edmonton Oilers.
Florida Panthers.
Lastly, Yotes defenseman, Matt Dumba.
Florida Panthers.
Toronto Maple Leafs.
Wow. It's a lot of Atlantic teams in your guys' list.
Yeah. So listen, the Gensel, like Jake. So before we get into too much on Jake Gensel, it is a Leafs podcast, but we are on this podcast ultra familiar with our good friend Kyle Dubas, and I think there's been
He's in for a
rumblings.
busy week.
There's been rumblings of some stuff going on in Pittsburgh. Johnny, have you heard anything going on in Pittsburgh?
I have a theory here, and I think we talked about it. John, when you and I were on the other podcast, we talked about, will Pittsburgh ever move on from the big three? And there's merit to obviously wanting, and I know ownership there would ideally have, Letang, Malkin, and Sidney Crosby retire as Penguins. I think that's what a lot of people want. I'm not sure if that,
like Pittsburgh want that.
Yeah, I'm not sure at this point if that's what the players may want. I mean, they brought in an Erik Karlsson this year. They brought in, they made their tweaks in the offseason and haven't had very much success. I think that core three and Sidney Crosby at 36 is playing like he's 25. I mean, he's been lights out all year in every aspect of the game. He's leading the league in faceoffs. He's, top whatever in scoring. He's just a machine. And that's a testament to his preparation and the way he's looked after himself for since he was a kid. But I think something big could happen this week and at the very latest in the summer, where they blow this up. They can literally rebuild that franchise. You know how they talk about soft rebuilds and hard rebuilds and 3, 5, 6 year plan, whatever. They can literally rebuild that franchise with 3 moves. And Malkin and Crosby and Letang together just aren't a good enough core anymore. They're too old. I hate to say that.
Too many miles.
They're too many miles. You separate those guys and put them all in different places that maybe are suited to what they bring to the table as individuals. The ransom that Kyle Dubas could get, and I immediately think of, any contender in the National Hockey League would want any 3 of those guys. Sidney Crosby could get you a fortune. You always hear about him wanting, or the Colorado people saying, hey, you know what, move him here, let him try to win a cup with Nate. He's got another year left on his deal. Then he can either go back to Pittsburgh, go to Montreal, retire, all kinds of different things. Then you've got Malkin. Do you think any of those teams that we were talking about in the Eastern Conference, because the Eastern Conference is going to be an arms race?
New York Rangers.
Arms race.
New York Rangers all day long with Malkin.
And maybe Letang too, right? So what I'm saying here is Pittsburgh has the opportunity. We're talking like basketball deals, right? 5 first-round picks and like just crazy what these guys could bring Kyle Dubas. And then if he was, active in free agency with all the cap room that he's going to have and the draft capital that he's going to have and the young prospects that he's going to have, that's a 2-year maybe contending team. You know what I mean? You don't want to go that young. So you move that draft capital into other assets, and it'd be frightening how good this hockey club could be, and how good's Colorado going to be if they add 87. I mean, you almost want to, if they stay healthy, say here's your Stanley Cup over here, and we'll all play for second place.
Yeah, and they could get Landeskog back in the playoffs too.
Yeah,
correct.
Right. But if they're going to get a ton, they're going to get multiple first-round picks, and other picks. There's going to be roster players. We're not talking about marginal roster players. It could be Bowen Byram would certainly be in that deal, a young defenseman. I know he's had some concussion issues, but the kid can play, right? If he's not behind Makar for the minutes that Makar plays, he's going to be a valuable defenseman. I just hope his head is fully good, because he's had some issues for sure. So, but yeah, you know what? I think this is going to be a very interesting.
So the question I have, and it's listen, and it's the same question I had when we talked about it before.
Yeah,
Fenway Sports Management, who owns the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah,
are they going to sign off on moving an Icon? Because
if the Icon wants to go,
yeah. But I mean,
because if their manager's smart, he's going to sell to them like, we just rebuilt our franchise.
Listen,
right?
I get it, but as well as I do, when you move Sidney Crosby, you're not just moving Sidney Crosby,
right?
You're moving an identity. You're moving, what takes place in the community. You're moving jersey sales. You're moving a tent. Like it is.
So what I would answer to that is very simple, John. When you move Sidney Crosby today, right? Sidney Crosby and his agent and his mom and his dad and his barber and his vet will all know the deal and where he's going before it's even finalized.
Talked about. No, for sure it will.
No. Let me finish. Back in '88, when they moved Wayne, and there was a courtesy Wayne knew. They didn't have to. Wayne didn't have a no trade. Nobody had no trades. They could have just called Wayne up and said, "Hey, going to LA, bud." Right? They didn't. They went about it the right way. Right? Wayne signed off on it. Blah 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 blah. They're still selling Gretzky Edmonton jerseys. He walks back into Rexall Place, and it's no different than if he had stayed and finished his career in Edmonton. Still the guy. And I speak of Sidney Crosby at the same level. I mean, obviously, Gretzky is the best of all time. Sidney's top 5.
Agreed.
Right now, 1,000% top 5 GOAT.
He could always go back to Pittsburgh as well once his contract's up. It expires. You see Patty Kane went back to Detroit or Chicago the other night. You see the ovation he got.
Yeah.
Fans still love him. He can go back anytime.
Sidney's a type of player that it doesn't matter.
No,
right.
I think there's merit to that. Yeah, I do think, though, at the same point in time, this is Fenway Sports, when they brought in Dubas on a 7-year deal and they traded for, Mr. Norris Trophy. This is not what they had in mind.
No.
So this is this would be a.
Now you got to pivot.
This would be a colossal change of course. The one thing that I will say about Dubas is he's not afraid to make the move.
No.
So
he's had these conversations. I will assure you, and he might have been told to go F himself, but he's had these conversations with ownership. He's had these conversations with all 3 of those players. Because when he came in, you think that they're not having a conversation going, okay,
what's the timeline?
What's my mandate? And
he got 7. He didn't get 5, right?
You got to win with the 3, right? And if he says, "Oh well, I can't win with those 3," well, give it a shot. and then we'll talk. These conversations happened.
For
he
sure.
wasn't going. He doesn't take that job if he's told, under no circumstances will you ever move Crosby, Letang, or Malkin. He doesn't take that job.
No, I agree, and I think to be fair to Dubas and to kind of further your point along here, I think that's also why he took a 7-year deal as opposed to a 5-year deal, right? The 7-year deal is
Give it a couple of years with Sid and
just in
company,
case, right? Like just in case it doesn't work out, I don't want to be on the hook and then have to make stupid decisions. This way, it buys him a little bit of wiggle room. So, yeah, I do think there's a contingency there, and maybe you're right, Johnny. Maybe we are going to get fireworks before Friday.
I think there's going to be fireworks a lot of places. I really do. I think there's a lot of teams. There's a lot of teams right now that think they can win. There's enough teams that know they're not going to win, that have cap space, that can help these big deals
Facilitate.
Yes, for capital. So those guys are sitting back licking their chops. They want somebody to call them and say, you eat half of Sidney Crosby's contract for this year and next year, and we're going to give you a first rounder and a, grade A prospect in the American Hockey League under 25, right? That's what's happening right now. Guys are sitting. This reminds me a little bit about what of Vegas, his expansion
in the draft, in the expansion draft.
Yeah, there's just a lot of crazy scenarios out there that people think are crazy, but they're not that crazy. Right? There's a lot of, just look at the division. Toronto's in the Atlantic Division.
It's crazy.
I mean, Detroit Red Wings, I remember our first show. I said, they're going to be good. These guys are going to be good this year. And
then remember we were talking about, well, they'll just flip Patrick Kane at the deadline. They're not going to move Patrick Kane now.
No. Why would you? Right? You're in it. So another smart move by Stevie Watt. And now if they have any success and get into the playoffs and, extend a series or whatever, get to 6 or 7 games, maybe you could keep Pat Kane on a team-friendly deal.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing with house money right now, Detroit.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
They're
where everybody thought Buffalo would be.
Or Ottawa, for that matter.
Or Ottawa. Yeah.
So let's talk. Let's briefly touch on Jake Gensel there on the Pittsburgh exodus, possibly.
Yeah.
For me, I can totally see that guy in Vegas. He is like that prototypical guy, plug and
just
play.
Picked up Mantha today.
I think they still have their first, and they still have, I think, about 5 or 6 million of cap space. Like only Vegas could do this with Vegas's cap.
Vancouver can do it.
They're gonna have a better team than they had last year.
I'm saying only Vegas could get like Mantha and still have 5 million in cap space.
Right, because a guy's got a hangnail and they put him on the LTIR.
You got it. And I guess what? On the first game of the playoffs, magically, he'll be back and ready to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Listen, Jake Gensel. Like truthfully, I think Jake Gensel is going to be wherever Sidney Crosby is going to be next year. At the end of the day, so whatever you're paying for him, you're paying for him for a 30-game stretch in the playoffs.
I think I agree. He'll either go back there or
wherever Sid is. He's either going back to Pittsburgh, or if Sid's gone elsewhere, that's where he's going.
Yeah, for sure.
So Noah Hannafin.
Yeah.
Listen, a lot of discussion. There's a reason why both John and I, for those people that are watching that are Leaf fans, and we see it all the time on all the pages and everybody talking and the Leafs got to get the Leafs. Noah Hannafin has zero interest in playing in Toronto. He won't re-sign.
He'd play here. He'd play here for 3 months
but he won't re-sign, right? So what it's going to cost you, it doesn't make sense for the Leafs to get in and make that kind of deal. I know he's a Boston kid, born and bred. Would he fit in Boston? Boy, he would.
Fit in anywhere. He's a good player.
I just seem to think that Tampa to me seems like the right fit for him.
I keep hearing Tampa too. I don't know about how I feel about that because it's when they won the 2 cups, they had on the left side they had Hedman, McDonough, Sergachev,
But
and
Sergachev's out, right? No, who's
yeah,
the Russian that's out?
Sergachev.
Yeah, it is Sergachev
Right.
that's out. So you got his big cap space, right? That they can play with.
Yeah,
So they could absorb that and effectively slide him in.
yeah. But when Sergachev comes back and if Hanifin resigns and you have the 3 monsters on the left side, it
Cross
would work
that
out because
bridge when you come to it.
you'd have at least one of those guys on the ice at all times, which is kind of like what Boston went for last year with the Lindholm, McAvoy, and Orlov. But I don't know. I think Florida would be a better fit than Tampa. They got Montour, Ekblad on the right side. Put him on the left with one of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, either of the Florida teams, you're I mean,
Hopefully not, but
listen, if we're going to be honest, you could take Noah Hanifin and slot him into the top 4 of any team in the NHL, right? Just to be fair, he is a good quality top 4 defenseman. Like, it's Calgary, and Calgary's on a fire sale, and they're trying to get rid of what they can get rid of in reason. But yeah, let's be honest. Noah Hannifin's going to make any team he goes to a better hockey team.
Craig Conroy has to be careful though.
Losing the room.
Well, Craig. Well, they've already lost the room, right? The players.
You got Kadri, and you got all.
Did you see what happened with Markstrom?
No, what happened with Markstrom?
Well, Markstrom was approached to waive his no trade to go to New Jersey. He said, "Yes, I'll go to New Jersey." Okay, then they don't move him there. They asked for too much from New Jersey.
Calgary didn't want to retain salary on it, and so the trade fell through.
Right,
Well,
so
that's
he's
not a good
pissed
look.
now. He
Yeah,
thinks
that's
he's
not a
going
good
to
look.
New Jersey. He arranged his I'll I don't know what his family situation is.
That's a
but
rookie move.
He was right. Okay. And I've heard, I mean, for a fact, Treliving was in on the 2 defensemen that got moved to Seattle and Vancouver.
Tanev and
Zadorov.
Yeah.
Dallas
I heard that basically they were going to overcharge Toronto
I heard that too.
based on the history of if you look back at the Doug Gilmour trade and what Cliff Fletcher did back in in 92 or 93, whatever it was. So he's got to be very careful here with Noah Hanifin. Okay. I think there's like we said, Hanifin may sign in Boston because he's from there, or one of the 2 Florida teams. Okay. Well, they know that. So if you know that this guy's only going to sign with one of these 3 teams, your stick is a little bit bigger because, Conroy's calling you because the player will go there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So now the teams like Toronto and, some other contenders of Vegas or, Dallas or anybody, like you said, John, you're bang on. He's a top 4 on anybody, top 2 on a lot of teams.
Yeah.
If he tries to get too much, right, you're going to see that kid go for way less, very late in the day on Friday, right, at the trade deadline. And that's when a Toronto may be in play. That's when, Edmonton, Vancouver, anybody that we know he's not going to sign long term.
But maybe somebody will give you that first to just go. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, fair.
Right? So, if they want to get ransom, it's from one of those 3 teams. And
so let's take a look at our division rivals to the north.
Yeah.
Listen, I was as stunned as anybody this year with the colossal step sideways, step back. I don't know what Ottawa did this year, but it wasn't what we thought we were going to see from Ottawa.
We talked about that last week.
Yeah, we got Tarasenko. Looks like he's going to be on the move. He was a one and done probably in Ottawa, anyways. We got last year's big deal of Jacob Chychrun. Looks like he's going to be on the move, and
watch him in Toronto too.
And then the always interesting Breaking news that our favorite Johnny Mac talked about last week with our friend Brady Tkachuk possibly being on. And I want to give a shout out to Johnny here because I believe you called that last week, and there were a few Prince people who decided to jump up on that this week. And
Did they watch my show or they watch our show?
I'm telling you, maybe they were. I'm just saying.
Did you see the interview? Did you see the press conference with Steve Sales? And he asked about it?
No.
Did you see it, Nolan?
No, I haven't.
So Sales got asked. I watched it. I haven't. I've got the bullet points. Nothing could be further from the truth. We love Brady. We love his leadership. He's a great, we're building the team around Brady. He said everything that I would say if I was going to move.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a kiss of death, right?
Yeah, he's in play. I'm telling you, this could be, how some years the boys on TSN and Sportsnet
are coming up with things to talk about. And yeah.
And you know what? Honestly, I flip back and forth because there's personalities on both of those brands that I like, right? I like to listen to certain guys. You know who's slowly becoming one of the best analysts in hockey?
Cheryl Pounder.
Kevin Pieksa.
Oh, okay. I thought we were going to say Cheryl Pounder. I meant for Cheryl Pounder. Well,
Kevin Pieksa speaks the truth, right? He sometimes will say things that maybe he shouldn't. And he'll call out a guy and this and that, and I love it. He's passionate, he's honest, and it's easy to take from a guy like him because he played the game the right way. He was an honest, hard-working defenseman. Right?
I'm going to be very honest with you, and for anybody that's watched my show with Kara for any length of time, I don't watch Kevin Bieksa.
Why?
At all. Because I absolutely refuse to listen to Jen Botterill and Ron McLean. I refuse. No, you don't understand, John. I refuse. I turn the channel. If they're on, I turn it. I'm not listening.
Well, you're missing out because I'm telling you, Bieksa.
I'm not missing. What am I missing out on? The players need to feel safe on the ice.
I'm telling you, Bieksa is a fantastic analyst, and I was never a fan of him. I was never a Vancouver guy. I actually was kind of anti-Vancouver, but I like the way he played. The guy talks and talks about it the right way.
Listen, I'll take your word for it, John. But that TSN panel is as good as anything that's been on TV. Whether it's O'Neill, and listen, give full credit. I listened to Cheryl Pounder, and Cheryl Pounder is as good as they come.
Oh yeah,
he gets it. She's on point, man.
But I do both. I watch both. I'll flip on trade deadline day, back and forth.
Yeah, I'm a TSN guy. Yeah.
I'm a big Elliot Friedman fan too. I remember listening to him on the Fan 590 as a producer in the early 90s, right? Or there was Fan 1290 or something that was called then, but in Toronto. And
1430.
Each their own. Who do you like, Nolan? What do you watch?
Yeah, I honestly kind of prefer TSN. I just like the way they broadcast more. I like Mike Johnson on the calls, just more fun, engaging. And I like the panel too, James Duthie in the quiz. It's just, I don't know, I like it more.
I think the quiz is rigged against O-Dog, though. There's no way he wouldn't have won one yet.
Yeah.
No, but do you want to know what I find especially like fundamentally difference between the two? I feel like when you watch the McLean and co, it's very scripted. Nobody ever really gives an opinion. Nobody really says anything. Where you watch them on TSN and it's guys talking and they'll disagree and they'll argue back and forth and both guys will go, yeah, okay, fair enough. And then
that's
they move
why
on.
You got to watch Bieksa because he will.
But who's he gonna argue with? Hairplug Rudy? Like, no, I'm not. Like Kelly Rudy should have been gone 25 years ago. And Jen Botterill, I just can't with her at all. Like the bane of my existence, that one. And then Ron McLean, listen, scumbag. That's my opinion on him. With friends like that, you don't need enemies.
What do we got here?
A moment of silence there.
Yeah, no kidding.
Let it sink in for everyone.
That's
All
right.
right. Moving back to like the Leafs. So for the Matt Dumba answer, was it you, John, that said the Leafs for Matt Dumba?
Yeah.
All right. Why do you think the Leafs?
Well, he's a right shot defenseman that plays heavy and he'll contribute offensively. I mean, I think he'd be a great fit. Again, he's one of those players that's going to fit it. He's going to be a good player wherever he goes. I know Toronto liked him in the summer. For whatever reason, he chose Arizona. I think he has a house there.
Yeah, I heard he said so. He has real estate investments in Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, he's a Calgary kid, right? He's a Calgary kid. It's a flip flight from Calgary to Phoenix, and there's 4 a day, right? He can get back and forth and see his family. And I know I coached against his brother Kyle, was a goaltender, 98 birth year. So yeah, he played in the same loop with Cale Makar and that group. And his dad's a big hockey guy. He was a referee in chief for Calgary hockey. And
but guys, if we're going to be fair, we could have had Matt Dumba. Our general manager picked John Klingberg.
No, that's not true.
It is true.
No, it's not true. Dumba turned down here
because we didn't offer him enough.
Yeah, well, what's he worth? I don't know what he wanted. What did he get there? 4, 5?
Yeah, 3.9.
So. Yeah, 3.9, and we played Klingberg 4.1. He wanted 4.5.
You would have paid Klingberg that before the season over Dumba.
Okay, let's go back.
I didn't know it was going to be that bad. Neither did you.
Yes, we did. No. To be fair, let's go back and watch the very first show that we did. The very first show we did, and the second that signing was made, I said John Klingberg is going to be the worst signing that this franchise has ever made.
You're smarter than you look. Then I don't remember that.
Well, no, but I mean, like let's talk reality, man. When they were playing in Minnesota last year in the playoffs, Matt Dumba was playing on the top pairing. John Klingberg was so bad, he was playing power play time. That's it. He was averaging 8 minutes a game in the last 5 games they played.
Well, he killed me on my family pool too, by the way.
But that's the only point I'm making.
That's upsetting to me.
Well, I mean, and there's reason for you to be
upset.
5
points. 5 points on one of my
all in the first 3 games.
I could have picked 6 defensemen in all of the NHL, and I picked John Klingberg, and he got me 5 points, and I'm still not out of it. I'm kind of out of it, but I'm not out of it. My daughters are 1-2.
Brutal. You'll never hear the end of that one, Johnny.
No. Well, that'll be it.
So yeah. So listen. So who else legitimately do we think about here coming to the Leafs?
I think there's an endless possible. Hey, we got a birthday boy. Come on in here, bud.
Oh, come on in, Jack.
We gotta get some predictions from you. Come on, sit down. Say hi to the fellas.
Hello.
What's going on, buddy? Happy birthday.
Thanks.
Yeah, 10 years old in a couple hours, eh, bud?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking about trades. Who do you think the Leafs should try to get? The trade deadline's Friday. Who are you thinking? Throw him some names and he can say yes or no.
Matt Dumba.
No, you can't get him. Matt Dumba, defenseman from Arizona. Do you want him or not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who else?
How about my sleeper pick? Jack, I'm going to unload this on you. This is my sleeper pick for who I think the Leafs should get. He plays for San Jose. He's a defenseman, and his name is Mario Ferraro.
You like him?
Yeah.
He likes him. Nolan, you got anything for Jack?
Yeah. How about Colton Parayko? St. Louis.
He's the guy. If they can get him and you give up your first, I mean, he's a stud. He's going to help you offensively. He's better offensively than Dumba. He's a big physical. Yeah. I mean, he's the guy. I think if you can go all in on a guy like that and then add to your bottom 6, let's do it.
Lot of term, though. A lot of term and a lot of money on that deal.
Yeah. Already 30. I think he has 6 years left. 6.5 mil.
Right? So
for Parayko?
Yeah. Parayko's got a lot of money and a lot of term.
Yeah,
so
but in a couple of years, 6.5 is going to be a steal. When the cap goes up again, that's going to be a 3rd or 4th defenseman, 5th defenseman. Like it's, we're getting to a point where it's not going to. That's going to be manageable. They get Tavares coming off. You can make some. I mean, that's an impact player too, right?
What do you think about Michael Backlund?
He's not going anywhere. They just gave him the captaincy. He's not going anywhere.
You don't think so?
No.
Lifetime Flame.
I think
15
so.
years there.
Okay.
I don't think he's going anywhere. And you know what?
Okay.
He's a useful player, but I don't think you're going to get enough to make it worthwhile to let him go.
I think they give him an extension too.
Deal?
They give him an extension starting next year, I think.
So he can get an extension in July. Well, I expect him to extend there even cheap.
He already did at the start of the year for next year.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere.
All right, Jack. Hey, I was telling the boys you got a big game Thursday against Cole Harbour, huh?
Yeah.
Halifax U11 AA Red. You gonna beat them?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy. All right.
Get a good night's sleep, buddy.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you in a few. Okay.
Okay, so last sleeper guy for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the same team. What about Michael Granlund?
I've never been a big fan. I mean, he's a useful player. I think what Toronto needs, if you're going to get into a Florida series or a Boston series, is you need a heavy defenseman. And I'm fine with a Dumba,
Oh, I'd be fine with Dumba too.
I'd be more fine with Parayko, right? Bigger and stronger and, whatever. Same age. They're with 29 and 30 or something. They're not,
Yeah, it's manageable.
Yeah. But I think you need, and I know there's not a lot of these guys out there, but a Tom Wilson type.
Boy, do we need a Tom Wilson type.
Well, I mean, everybody needs them.
Everybody needs a Tom Wilson
type.
But
if you're going to play, if you're going to get in the first or second round, if you expect to play the Florida Panthers, you better beef up your lineup to a point where you want to expect I have a theory on Florida. And we talked last week and we did a poll. And you, John, wanted Florida, I think. No, you wanted the Rangers.
I definitely wanted the Rangers.
And Nolan and I wanted Boston. I'm leaning to. I've watched a few Florida games, segments of them. I haven't watched, unless they're playing the Leafs. I haven't watched a whole game in a while. But every single stoppage of play is a circus.
Yeah.
Right now,
old-time hockey. Hockey.
Yeah, but is it? Because you know what? I have a theory that Florida's gonna come out and play like that in the first couple of games of the playoffs, and they're gonna be in the box half the game, right? I truly believe that they're almost over the line in the regular season to a point where they're gonna get called for some of this nonsense in the playoff. In the regular season, sometimes they'll say, "Okay, you and you go." In the playoffs, it's more of you. We know it was you, Kachuk, that's in there fucking running around and grabbing guys. We're gonna, and then that power play. I think it's gonna hurt them, but it's an arms race right now. And you got enough guys in Toronto that can put the puck in the net. And you got enough guys that, if you add one more defenseman, I think that with some depth, if there's some injuries, you're gonna be okay. I think you need a little bit more. Or do they have it? Do they have it within? Is Domi stepped up to a point? Is Bertuzzi stepped up to a point? I still think if you can get another bottom six guy that, is big and heavy.
Well, if you saw what Boston did to our bottom six the other night, we're not ready.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying we're not ready, but yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you can add to your bottom, I don't think you need another top six player. I think there's enough options right now. And there's some bottom six guys that can come into the top six if need be.
Right? And we all agree, right? Like, as much as, Ryan Reeves has been a nice story this last little bit.
Ryan Reeves, don't expect him in.
He's not playing, right? So, does that mean Alex Steves is playing?
Well, I would rather have a guy that could protect his teammates like Ryan Reeves has been doing of late.
No, but I'm just saying in the playoffs, though.
Yeah.
Right in the playoffs,
well, I would rather a guy that can handle himself going into that role, especially in a Florida series. I don't worry too much about Boston.
Okay.
So what do
Who
we
else
got
you
before
got?
the next show? You got 3 games. That's it.
Yep, 3 games, so 6 possible points. We got Buffalo Wednesday, Boston Thursday, and Montreal on Saturday. What are you guys going with?
I'm going with 6.
Woo-hoo-hoo! You're taking the Johnny special. Listen, I am. I've gone from full
Your glass is
confidence.
half empty again.
My glass is half empty again after that Boston game. I can't even tell you how disappointed I am, John. Like that, I was so ready for us to come out and show that we were different, and all I saw was no, we're the same. So you know what? I'm looking at Boston this week. We're not going to beat Boston in Boston. Buffalo's a toss-up. Call it a point. Maybe we get an overtime point. And in Montreal, I'm going to say we get a point.
So you're going 2?
No, I'm going 1.
Wow.
Yeah, that Montreal game, I'm telling you, or that Montreal game, that Boston game, that was
Set
devastating.
you back.
No, it really did. And I legitimately, and again, what concerns me the most is our top line guys went invisible again. Our bottom 6 got exposed terribly, and our goaltending was average. And the bottom line is against elite teams, if your elite guys are not elite, it doesn't matter. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And, Buffalo doesn't seem to matter. We could be on like a 53-game winning streak and we'd play Buffalo, and Buffalo would not have won in 3 months and they'd beat us. So,
Right.
Buffalo's kind of like a toss-up game, right? Like, sure, we could win, we could lose. Nobody would be surprised. Same at Montreal, right? Doesn't seem to matter. Montreal always plays as hard. But I'm not in a positive headspace right now with us. So I'm going to go with 1 point.
Wow.
Yeah, you know what?
maybe-
I wouldn't be surprised to see major stuff. And
Oh, we lose Johnny? I think we lost. No, who do you got?
Yeah. I'm just going to go 4 points, somewhere in the middle between you two. I think we'll get 2 wins, lose to Buffalo or Montreal. I think we'll beat Boston eventually.
Okay, so let me ask you this, though, and a serious question. Based on what you saw the other night, what makes you think we're going to beat Boston in Boston? What did you see that makes you go, oh, okay, we can totally beat this team?
Well, first off, we got like a slow start. So third period, I thought we played really well. Obviously, the goal from Tavares had a couple of posts. Like right after the Tavares goal, Nyes, I think.
Yeah, he
deflected one off
sniped
the
one.
post.
And then there was
they plucked one off the goal line for Matthews. I mean,
Yeah. Like they had some chances. I think they outshot Boston. Like they had more ozone time. Could have gone either way, really, even though it was 4-1. But
Okay.
I like the third period. I like the response. Like they dominated most of it. Yeah, that's just how I think
I
about it.
think they're going to be fine.
okay. All right, so we are coming up to the trade deadline. Yes or no, Leafs above 2 trades? Nolan,
Above like 2 or more.
2 or more?
I'll go 2 or more.
John?
One depth forward, one defenseman.
2 or more,
Okay,
maybe
I'm
way
going,
more.
I'm
Wait,
going
you're
on
talking two
It's our
separate
first
trades
year
or
for living.
2 players or 2 trades?
2 trades.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go over. I wanna
Okay, I'm
see some
going
action.
under.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys think we keep our first round pick?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Do you think Robertson stays?
No.
Would I like Nick Robertson to stay? Yes. Does the coach want Nick Robertson here? No. So will Nick Robertson be here? Johnny is right again.
Right. Yeah, Tree Living doesn't have the same loyalty to
No, not at all.
Robertson because you didn't draft him. He hasn't been around him. So you can't really blame him too much. Yeah.
Do you guys think, I had somebody ask me about this today at work. Do you think there's any possibility that in an effort to get a better player, they move on from somebody like a younger defenseman like Liljegren?
Yep.
I had somebody bring that up to me today, and I went,
100%.
that's a really interesting point, right?
Don't you remember last year, Sandine?
Yeah, totally.
Same thing.
Right? But I never really thought about that until he brought it up to me, and I kind of went, "That's an interesting play. Like if you could really better yourself,
Yeah,
right? And somebody
absolutely.
wants,
Well, they moved Sandin so they could have room to bring in the guys that they brought in.
yeah, and then they had the
Shannon,
pick, and then they had the pick that they could play with
and
too.
McCabe, and
Dubas did right by Sandy by
100%.
trading him.
If moving Liljegren is going to bring you in a Pareko and maybe a 6 or 7,
That's what I mean. Yeah, for sure.
you do it.
It's just something to think about. Just as we kind of go into the deadline here, it was just something that brought up to me today, and I went, "That's an interesting take."
What do you guys see with Timmins? He was back in practice today after being out with mono for a little while. Do you guys see him staying around or
Casualty of the coach?
trade?
Oh, I think he'll be around. I think he'll be a depth guy. I mean, you know what? You're going to get banged up. If you want to go on a deep run, you better have 9 or 10 guys ready to come in.
Right.
And this hasn't been exactly the healthiest of groups. I don't know if we'll see Giordano play another game in Maple Leaf uniform. He looks bad coming off there.
Yeah, he looks. I think he's done.
Just dealing with the death of his dad. That's tough. I know they were close, but as most of us are. And then he comes back, and that was ugly. That reminded me of JT in Game 1 against Montreal. The look on his face. Yeah, just he was out of it, man. And he's not a young kid, right?
So I just got a text here from somebody.
Yeah.
What are our feelings on a since we're bringing the band back together? What do we feel about Zach Bogosian?
I heard about that yesterday, and then today Minnesota extended him.
Oh, Minnesota did.
2-year extension.
Well, that takes care of that.
Yeah.
I would have said he couldn't skate when he was here the first time. I loved his jam and his physicality, and if he was in the right position, he made a good first pass, and more often than not got the puck out of his own zone. But anything that needed him to be mobile, which is
he doesn't have the wheels. Yeah,
a pivot on the rush, or a loose puck, and he needs to have a couple quicker feet. I mean, is he useful for 5, 6, 7 minutes a game? Maybe. PK, maybe. But you can't waste a roster spot on a guy that has his foot speed, in my opinion. Maybe that's why Minnesota's not doing real well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all I got this week, boys.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I'm good too. Enjoy. The games are getting good. You watch any game at this time of the year, and it's getting, especially the divisional games, are getting heated, and there's always a little bit of controversy and jam there. So yeah.
Listen, but before we go, and I can't even believe we didn't bring this up. Trade deadline on Saturday. Is Martin Jones a member of the Maple Leafs?
Yeah.
Nolan?
Yeah, they keep him.
I think there's your insurance. You're going to have to go pay a 2nd rounder and a 5th rounder to get a guy that's probably Martin Jones, right? Has had some success, is a little older, will be a real good 3rd option for you, and to be around the younger guys. So you think of guys like, and I don't know if any of these guys are available. You think about guys you thought of Talbots and Andre Fleury and all these guys. New York just extended Johnny Quick, guys like that, right? That's who you want. You want to have a 3rd option as that guy, and they already have him. So why would you?
Okay, so I'm going to be shock and dismay here. I'm going to be the guy that disagrees with you both. I think he's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if they could turn him into a big enough asset that could turn into something else, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I wish they had given Hildeby a couple starts when he came up.
Me too.
Yeah,
see where he is, right?
Say they get rid of Jones, and then Sammy gets injured in the playoffs again. Are you comfortable having Wall and Hildeby?
Yeah. No.
Hildeby, you weren't even comfortable playing him against the Anaheim Ducks.
Yeah.
In game 40, and now you're gonna throw him in back row.
Listen, that's what happens when you have an AHL coach running your team. Facts. That's all I can say, folks.
Oh, on that note.
Yeah.
we'll talk to everybody next week. And,
and Johnny,
yeah,
listen, before we go, just
Yeah.
special shout out to the sponsors, Bjorn Hockey and Don Cherry Sports Grill. Thanks for the lookout. Look at that. That's there's not a better T-shirt on the market than that one right there, Johnny.
Yeah, you got her. All right, fellas, have a good week. We'll speak next too. Hey, you know what? We maybe have to schedule another show next week. We'll see. We might have.
All right. Well, listen, I'm on the global road trip next week, so I may be calling in from a distant locale. So we'll have to see if we can make something happen.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
All right, boys, have a good one.